Welcome back to Portrait of an Editor. I am Francis Lombard. Sorry about the delay, but finally, here's the third part of my conversation with Stephanie Phillips. It's a fantastic wrap-up and contains plenty of new info on managing a writing career in comics. One thing I took away from it was you need to be prepared to do the work and don't fear that part either. Everyone who is succeeding as a writer finds a way to write their way across the finish line. Without that, you will not have a career. Remember, every completed piece of work starts a conversation that could open another door. Before we roll tape, some housekeeping. The past 50 or so episodes are now on YouTube for free. When you arrive, please take a moment to like and subscribe. As a matter of fact, please like and subscribe to whatever podcasting app you use to listen to Portrait of an Editor. It helps a lot in the motivation department. Thank you. Also, there is a Portrait of an Editor Patreon page where you can find the older interviews that I've been doing from way back when I started in 2017. Check it out for $1 a month. Now here's the third part of my conversation with Stephanie Phillips and Will Dennis. Enjoy. Stephanie and Will, welcome back. One thing I wanted to do in this marathon interview was, after listening to some of it, is we haven't talked about conventions and the role that plays. Now, Stephanie, I don't go to many conventions, but you seem to be on the circuit. I think we met in New York, so you definitely go to New York Comic Con. There was a big distillery presence there, I know, the last couple of years. So, but also it seems like you're on a circuit that travels around the country. Obviously, you're getting the writing done, so let's just put that, stick a pin on that one. But how do conventions, now that you are working for a number of different companies and you have a whole bunch of books out there, how do you see that keeping your career moving forward, managing the career, managing the elements of what happens at a convention, and just what happens after the convention too, of whatever, with that, and what makes a successful convention for you, basically?
I actually don't think a convention is important for your career in any way. It's pretty superfluous. I think artists.
That's a hot take.
Okay.
It is. Sorry. I think artists can make a good amount of money selling art at a convention. As a reader, that's different. I do make money at a convention, so for me, it's like I add up. If I'm going to spend 2 or 3 days at a convention, I have to think about the cost. Like, first, are they paying my appearance fee? If they're not, it's probably a no for me, because the appearance fee guarantees at least the amount of money I would have made if I sat at home writing a script, which is usually what I do on a weekend. And honestly, sometimes I'm writing scripts at conventions anyway. So it's kind of just thinking about it's a cost benefit analysis. Like, am I going to make money at this show? So I don't do the same convention 2 years in a row, with a few exceptions, like New York or something like that. I might do those 2 years in a row, just because I don't think it's like, oh, you all just saw me last year, why do you need me here again this year? If you didn't get my autograph last year, make them want it, wait a few years to see me again. But honestly, it's like, do I want to go to this place? Do I want to go to Seattle or wherever it is? And that's why the majority of the conventions I do are international. I do a lot of international signings, because even though I'm not making the money on that, somebody else is paying for my flight to Europe or wherever I'm going. And that is more important to me, getting over to Greece, or this year I'm going to Portugal as well. I've been to Budapest, Vienna, Greece, Italy, all these places for comic book conventions, and I think that's incredible. I've made zero money at those things, but when I do an international show, that's really not the priority. In terms of networking, it was already going out the door that you needed to go to a convention to do that, and COVID really put the nail in that coffin. I really don't think that's... And I think it's been dismissed a lot. It used to be something called BarCon, and BarCon turned out to be this super toxic, weird environment. So when people talk about it in a nostalgic way, it's like, well, something bad was probably happening to somebody in this bar because somebody was drunk and being an idiot. So it's like, I think we've kind of dismissed like BarCon is not a great thing. And
wow, you should just kick me off this podcast right now. Francis.
But the difference
the hours I've spent on this podcast
talking about BarCon.
Yeah, no, that is not, I don't think BarCon is a place where people should be getting work. I really don't. But I mean, that's because like look at the record of like it's been such a weird contested area when you have people just drinking. Some of them are desperate for something. They're there because they want something, and other people who are also drinking are there because they have something that they could potentially give. It's just like a bad environment. But that's not to say that just hanging out with people hasn't led to good things. But I'm not there hanging out with people because I want something on the other end. Like, I mean, like Will and I have met in that situation multiple times, like before we ever worked together, and we were just friends and knew we could hang out. And I think that that's important on its own, and it is one of the reasons that I like going, like being able to hang out with, I mean, this happened recently. There's somebody that I've met through conventions, hanging out, having fun with them, not looking for anything business wise, and then it has turned out that we might be collaborating together on something, and that's really cool. But I what I mean is the intent of going into a situation saying like I must get X out of it, I think is what gets
right. But like for the hours I've spent in bars, hanging out, talking to people, talking to you, like for every bad interaction that may have happened, there could be 1,000 good ones that happen, you know, like and no one, I mean, I never went into these situations or even created these situations for people to kind of come together with the idea of like, oh, well, you've got a pitch, so you need to talk to this person. So come, like, you know what I mean? And like, it was always difficult for me when I would go back to DC, because I'd go to San Diego every year, and, you know, they'd come back and you do like this post-mortem, and we'd sit in these conference rooms, and Shelley would have, you know, here are the 10 things I talked to, and here are the 10 things I'm getting. And Karen would have them. And, you know, and Doyle and I would be like, well, we stayed out every night till 4 a.m, and I don't know what's going to come out of it, but like, here are the things that'll come out of it, you know? And because for me, it was always just like, there's so much personal relationship and trust involved in these relationships, particularly if you're hoping them to be more than just transactional, that it's, you had to put in the hours, right? You had to just sort of be there and like kind of be around. And so Scott and Jock are there, and we're chatting, and no one's talking about like anybody. If people would start immediately pitching or whatever, like I would just walk away from someone like that, right? I mean, they would follow me into the bathroom, but like I would just, you know, that was never the intent nor the vibe, you know. But it's like, okay, those guys start to get to know each other, and then the next day they go have lunch, and suddenly like they're doing Batman, you know, like that's exactly how that happened, you know.
I mean, that's the difference I'm trying to
yes.
say. I think when we have brand new people that think I can walk into this bar because there's going to be editors there, and I've got this pitch.
Do people think that though? I mean, honestly, people that think that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've had people pitch to me at a bar at C2E2, like just come up to me when I'm sitting there with people after the show and like hand me like Yes, absolutely.
Right.
That is because I think people at conventions have started to figure out that like the hotel bar is like the place where people gather, and they've started to try to use that. So I think we actually are agreeing with each other. We're just talking about like two different places in your career of going. Because like I said, like hanging out with this artist at conventions and becoming friends with them has led to a potential collaboration that I'm really excited about. And that's just organically making a cool friend. So
I mean, I would go to a con with an agenda, but I think at the beginning of this, we were talking about when are you going in when it's just not transactional, when it's just, there's no agenda. And I think BarCon, obviously, you shouldn't have an agenda. I guess my questions sort of focus on agendas aspects. So BarCon shouldn't be transactional. It should just, you shouldn't be going in wanting something from somebody, especially when you throw in alcohol.
It's what it's what I say about the business of like the elevator pitch, right? Like people get that wrong all the time. The elevator pitch isn't the pitch about your project. It's the pitch about the meeting about your project, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the same with the BarCon. It's like you're there, you don't have to drink to excess. You don't have to drink, but it's like, and I would push back on the idea that COVID like put a stake in the heart of any of this too, because I don't think there's any substitute for personal interaction. And maybe that's just like generational or something. But I don't, and I feel very badly for young people at these companies like DC or other places where it's very remote. Yeah. I don't know how they develop the same trust relationships that like I've managed to develop strictly by putting in time, interpersonal time, traveling together, going out to dinners, going out to coffees, going out to bars, whatever it is. I think it's just really difficult. And so in that respect, I would say that I think conventions can be very positive from like a networking standpoint, but I also feel like maybe we're, like I say, we're kind of agreeing, but even the conventions that I had the most success at, quote unquote, like bringing back a project kind of thing, they were the ones where I went in with like the least amount of planning, like expectation, and it was just kind of like, I'm going to go, I'm going to meet people, we're going to have dinners, we're going to hang out, that kind of stuff. The ones where early on, particularly where I'd had a whole check, because I was kind of learning from Karen and Shelley, and they would show up with their notebooks filled with the 10 people they needed to see and the 10 things they were going to check off their list. And I quickly learned, for me, at least personally, like that just wasn't my personal style, so it was kind of like, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Comes from a position of what I mean by the COVID stuff too, is I think there is a benefit that there are other ways, because
right.
Look, getting into the industry, we say things like, oh, well, you have to go to a convention, you have to pay for pages. These are really privileged positions to sit in and say, I paid an artist to do pages so I could pitch it, and I paid to go to a convention to meet editors. That's not, I don't think, entirely fair to say like our criteria is something that's pretty expensive. Like I remember the first San Diego I went to, I couldn't afford. I found somebody who let me stay on their couch in a hotel room, and but even that is a privilege to say, well, I bought the plane ticket, and yes, things came out of it, but we're talking about things that all cost money. And I guess I work with a lot of incoming writers. It's something that's really important to me. So it's something that I think about a lot in terms of like, I think there is a benefit to saying that there are other ways.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's not the only way, because I find that, I wish I had a better solution to that, and I don't, unfortunately.
Now, do conventions on the other side help with your fan base? Is there an element of the interaction with fans and just getting books in front of new people too? Is that because you need people to buy your books to keep a career going? So how does that, do you see that as even part of it, as an upside to going conventions?
Yeah, I like talking to people at conventions, but I don't think I come out of a convention with a lot of new fans. I think the people coming to see you are already kind of know, like, you're on their list, like, let's go get this book signed. Right. There's not a lot of like perusing the comic aisle and happening upon somebody in a book. Usually, like, I'm not saying that never happens, but most of what I'm seeing now are like people have an agenda. Like the fans have an agenda of like, here's my list of people, and I've got my organized like box of who's gonna sign what, and
right.
But those interactions are still really good. So even if somebody is specifically there to come see me and get a book signed, like, I appreciate that interaction, and I like that a lot. So
I do feel like this is what I'm always bitching about, like managing like the people I work with as careers, because I do feel like Stephanie's very smart about, like you said, it's like even that business of like, well, I get to meet my fans, but which is nice, but like if you had to pay your own way for the whole thing, the ROI on that is not there, right? Like it's not, because as you say, you're either preaching to the choir of people who are there to see you, or you're not. Like there aren't tons of people walking by and suddenly you're going to see like a spike in sales next week because you were sitting at some booth with 500 other people. So if you get paid and it's, sort of a thing, or at least your expenses are paid, well, then that's like a nice fringe benefit, but it's certainly not enough. Like I wouldn't tell any creator I work with, pay your own way to a convention so you can sign like a dozen books over the course of a weekend or something, And so, that's the thing that frustrates me endlessly is these people who are constantly taking the short money to in exchange for, I mean, as Stephanie said, it's like I know she spends every weekend. I'm always like, what are you going to do this weekend? And it's like, oh, I'm writing, I'm working, I'm going to the gym. It's like, I know, but it's like, there's no weekend for her. Right. So it's just like, but I see these creators constantly spending, oh, I'm just going to go to the show. But like, it's not just the show. It's 2 days before the show getting ready, and it's a day to travel, and it's 2 or 3 days at the show, and it's 3 nights staying out late, and it's a day to get home, and then it's 2 days to recover. And I mean, San Diego, like you're looking at 2 to 3 weeks you've just lost of time you could be putting towards like creating a book that might be on the shelf in 20 years, right? And so that's sort of, that part of it is endlessly frustrating to me. I mean, when I'm got artists that I'm working with that are like, oh, I can't get this stuff done because I'm going to C2E2 this week, but it's like, okay, but C2E2 is now for 10 days. Like, what the fuck are you doing between now and then? Like, but it's like, well, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to finish this cover. P.S. they never tell you, but it's like, I got to do the 10 commissions that I took online that I have to hand deliver to somebody, So, and that kind of stuff is endlessly frustrating for an on the editorial production side, for sure.
Well, I think as a writer versus a artist at a convention, I know writers that would schedule time during the show, and it sounds like you do it too, to go away and write in put some hours in, while you're hanging out in Portugal, so, but you still have to have the discipline to go ahead and do that and not be, distracted by somebody. But if that's your career, I mean, I guess that's the time you take the time and do it. I mean, do you schedule time at shows pretty much to go and disappear and put some hours in?
Yeah, I mean, if it's like a 2-day weekend show, my hope is that I wouldn't have to, but there have absolutely been deadlines and things like that where I've had to. I think it was like the last C2E2 I did. I usually have scheduled like signing blocks, and I scheduled them like, hey, I have to write, so I'm going to come down and sign like the very first signing time possible as soon as we open for 2 hours, and then I'm going to work all afternoon and come back for the last 2 hours of the show, because I had something that had to get done, and that was my convention. And then, when I go overseas, like I'm going to Greece and Portugal back to back, and I'm doing 2 conventions, but I've scheduled the time so that it's, I have a lot of time to myself in these places, and like I've been to Greece before, so for a lot, and so for me, it's like I'm actually excited. Like I already know the spot in my mind. It's like, oh, I'm going to go work here, and that's exciting to me, and I think it actually like kind of motivates me because it's like, oh, I'm going to be working in one of my favorite bars in the world is in Thessaloniki, Greece, and I've got my spot, and I know the owner, I know the bartenders, and I'm going to sit there and like I'm going to be excited to work there. Some of my best scripts, I think, have come from like changing the scenery and not just working in like this one spot all the time. So
that was one thing I was going to ask you. Does the traveling sort of inspire you? And it sounds like yes, it does.
Yeah, for me, absolutely. I think that would be a problem and something I would know about myself. Like, oh, I can't afford to do 2 weeks overseas because I know that I can't work. I mean, the only thing that I tend to have a problem with is working on the actual airplane. I seem to struggle. Like, I can read a book for 8 hours straight and sit there, but for some reason, the actual like working on an airplane, it's like I get excited to have like a little cocoon of time where I can like watch a TV show and like not be bothered by the outside world. And work has kind of fallen into that for me, where it's like, I mean, I would probably get a lot done, but that's the one place that I have found I struggle to work is on the actual airplane.
So, I mean, overall, just let's to cap the convention thing. It's something that you should be thinking of career, but don't break the bank going to it. And also maybe
sort of not have the agenda, not have agenda that you have to hit all the time. It's more about, I mean, see what happens, see where,
I think
where it takes you.
And it's like knowing yourself. Like, I think you have to know yourself and learn who you are, what makes you comfortable, what's going to get the best out of you. Like for instance, like for me, I'm the opposite. Like I used to love to go to San Diego and have that like 6-hour flight. And all I did on the flight was like, like figure out where stuff we were doing, making some plans, who I might want to see, that kind of stuff. It still was pretty loose, but like, or I'd bring scripts to read, or I'd bring, because it was this little cocoon, But I also think too, and you can't underestimate this. Most of the people who work in this industry are generally like introverted, right? So when you only have this, and I've learned this the hard way over the years. We've talked about it before. I've talked to Stephanie about it. You have a battery, right? That's just sort of, this is what you can do, and it's like, you have to be careful there too. It's like, I've seen Stephanie where it's like you're meeting all these people, you're shaking hands, you're signing, you're trying to be charming and be friendly to your fans, and you're
trying.
Well, I mean, it's like, you got to, well, because some of these fans are very entitled. Some of these fans are very, they want to come up and tell you the 10 things you did wrong in this book or something, where you're just like, okay, dude, thanks, and then you got to go do it on a panel, and then you got to go have a meeting, and so you have to just be careful that you're not overdoing it. And I think that sometimes that's where people come away from these things with these bad experiences. I don't mean when someone's doing something very untoward, but just having a bad reaction to it, or it just wasn't worth it because you just kind of blow yourself out, by trying to do too much. But again, it comes down to like, if you spend all this money and this time, and so there is a lot of pressure to make it worth your while, so.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, if you had a local show near you and there were people coming, I would say highly like go to the show and just kind of meet and walk around and see it and try to say hi to people and whatever. But yeah, like trying to break into comics by like spending $10,000 to fly to San Diego for a week I would not advise that.
I mean, you can also look too, like, I mean, we were specifically talking about like going into a bar and pitching, and that's like, I don't think a thing that you should do, and I see it happening. And like Will said, you just walk away. But there are editors and talent relations people that announce like, hey, I will be at this show, I will do a portfolio. Like, look for those things. Like, look for the actual scheduled time where somebody says, I will make time for this. I'm seeing it more and more. Like, I mean, I know CB Cebulski, the editor-in-chief of Marvel, he travels a lot to conventions and will say like, I'm doing portfolio reviews here. And I've worked with a few of the people that he's found at conventions, like talking about artists. And I think that is something where like, you looking for the officially like, here, this is a good reason to go to the convention, this is an actual time where somebody is going to look at my work, is better than walking into a bar and sitting next to somebody and saying, here's my pitch.
Right. But also conventions can be very, very satisfying and very, I don't know what I'm grasping for, but get you excited about the industry, or get you excited about, like Stephanie and I were just at this Adepticon, or I was there for like the weekend and she came up for like the day, but which is like the kind of Warhammer wargaming convention. And I haven't gone to a convention. I literally don't think I've ever gone to a convention where I went as a fan. Like, I never went to comic shows. The very first big comic show I ever went to was San Diego, when DC sent me in 2001. Like, I had never paid to go to a convention. I would never dream of paying to go to like a comic book convention. So, as a fan, I mean, right? So it's like, but to go to this thing as a fan, it was just awesome. Like, it was just like,
I've got my Adepticon shirt on.
Yeah, right. It was just like so much fun to see people and see these YouTubers that you watch and see all the different people and just walk around, and like, we don't even like, I mean, we're just kind of like in the hobby side of it, like not playing like the games and stuff, even because there's hundreds of tables of guys playing, these games. But like, yeah, like I had never experienced it from that standpoint. And there's value in that as well. Like, just the idea that you're like, oh, this is really cool. And there are a lot of cool people in this industry. And like, there is, just being even sort of adjacent to it is like, it can really kind of recharge your batteries, you know.
I would come out of San Diego always, sort of jazzed up.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
ready to go.
Me too.
So it just, even
as a
can
pro,
be exhausting. I'm sorry, Will?
Even as a pro, I would too. I'd bitch about it all the way before and complain, oh, it's a whole weekend. But you'd come back and be like, I was such a sicko. Like I would take a red-eye flight and go right to the office. Like I would take the Monday night flight and go to the office directly from the airport. And then people would go by and be like, hey, weren't you in San Diego yesterday? I'm like, yes, I was. Like, you know, and it was just sort of like,
now
you were, you
conquer the world.
Yeah, exactly. Like you were really like, I wanted to capitalize on all of that sort of momentum, you know, like immediately sending stuff back to people. And also I was like competitive enough that I wanted everybody else who took the day off to feel like when they showed up the next day, like I already had cleared out my inbox, and I was like, because no one expected me to be there. So people would come by your office and be like, weren't you in San Diego like yesterday? I was like, yeah. But it was always that, but I was highly competitive. Like, so it was always just like, I wanted the rest of them to sort of feel like they're day behind now, you know, which whatever. That's just sort of spite, which is my motivating. That's my motivating emotion in life, Francis.
I don't think you need to pay for a convention. I mean, if you can't. I mean, I like the local ones, but you know, if you're going to go to New York or San Diego, where everybody is, and all these, some of the bigger ones, you're dropping it's $1,000 just to leave, or more, just to leave your door. You know,
I mean, San Diego's. I mean, the hotels are $400 a night now.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. It's out of control. I don't know how people who come from the East Coast. I mean, I used to just take a train down there, and of course, either write it off or have somebody pay for it. But geez, I don't know how some of these families do it.
Yeah, and the small. Oh, I know. I mean, I see these families, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Particularly when you see them at the convention, you see them at the Starbucks at the hotel, and then you see, you know, you're like every meal must cost like $100 or more, you know, for just like. I mean, like the coffee breakfast thing for like a family of 4, but they all seem so happy. It's like you're at some kind of Mormon shindig or something. Everybody looks like they've got that like glassy-eyed look, like, you know, God is good, you know. Just like, all right,
we're out there worshiping false gods.
Exactly. That's what, I know. We're the kings of that. Believe me, I love it.
So you have a career going, you have connections going, you have books everywhere. DC, Boom, Marvel. Well, Marvel is later, right, Stephanie? Marvel came about.
I was at DC for a while, and then about 2 years ago, I'm kind of switched to doing Marvel pretty full time.
And now Distillery. Now Distillery is, as we were talking before we started taping, you're a founding member, and Will's a founding member too. So, how did this opportunity come about with this? Is this from everything that we've been talking about sort of culminating right here, where somebody's putting a company together and they decide, you know, I need to get a talent pool going? How did you look at it? Did you pursue this once you heard something from it through just your network of folks, or was it something that you just was surprised with, of like, hey, do you want to be a founding member as we put Distillery together, as Chip would, and I'm sorry, Chip's partner, David, they start putting it together? Because as we've talked about in some other podcasts, Will and I, that Distillery came together really quickly, you know, very quickly. And
that's yeah, exactly.
An understatement.
Too quickly, maybe, is the word you're looking for. No, I'm kidding.
I still want to get Chip on this. So I look back at this, and I already have every editor pissed off at me. So it's something you said already. So
this is the way these things go, you know. Like, you know. So,
but I'm just wondering, as we move,
other companies have popped up saying the same, like tried to emulate it super fast. Like I'd say faster, that have announced like, hey, we exist, and not a single book has been announced yet. It's like there's a couple of them that I know of that I'm like, have they said what they're doing? But yeah, I mean, I think they're kind of like, here's, so I mean, I think that's the way they kind of come together, right? Like that's how you get yourself in the market. But
but I mean, everything that we've been talking about leads to, like, I know you're doing other things too, but Distillery is a very much different different animal altogether. You're a founding member, so there's a different kind of deal. You have Life and Endeavor coming out.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you have coming from Distillery? I know you have a couple at Boom, and then the Marvel work, and then also you write for Oni too on the EC line. I just read a short a couple weeks ago that you did for Epitaphs from the Abyss, right? So, I mean, it was Distillery sort of all the work that you've done. Sort of, do you see that? Where do you see that?
Well, it's interesting to be asked to be a founding creator of something. So like my contract with them, will result in other elements like ownership of equity in the company, things like that. So having a really vested interest in it with another group of creators, I think that's interesting. They approached me about it. I didn't know about it. I kind of got this like really cryptic message from Chip, I think one New York Comic Con, that was like, come to this like secret location and we have something to tell you. And I was like, what? Like, what is this? And I got lost going there. I could not find it. And I'm like texting him, like, is there like a password? Is this hidden? Like, what are we doing?
Right. Like escape room.
Yeah. So I go into this, like, I really didn't know what it was. And I knew who David Steinberger was, but I had not met him in person. I knew Chip. I worked with him at Comixology pretty closely. I had a really good relationship working with Chip at Comixology. And I think I really credit Chip with somebody that championed my work at a super early stage. And I think Chip has continued to do that. It's I find that really important. It's somebody that because of the things he's done for me and the way we've worked together, I will listen to any pitch of a new company or whatever is going on. But yeah, so I sat down not really knowing what was going on, and David pulls out a laptop with a PowerPoint presentation and is like, this is Distillery. And I was like, what? So, I mean, they kind of were looking at me at the end of this, like, well, what do you think? And I was like, I don't know. Cause I didn't know what I was really walking into. So it was something that I like hadn't considered. And I think initially, like, being where I'm at in my career, and at the time that they made this pitch to me, my concern was really just like, how beneficial is this in terms of like, what do I do for the company? Like, I guess it's kind of down on myself. Like, I don't have the name of a James Tynan or a Scott Snyder or Jock. Like what is the beneficial element to this, like mutually beneficial element? And, through talking with Chip, I think it really just became like, no, Chip believes in the work I'm doing, and he believes in where my career is going, and like being able to just trust that like for me was maybe the biggest hurdle. And then also just like figuring out with the new company, like what is it that I need in terms of the contract to say like, yeah, I'm on board. So as part of my deal, I am doing 3 books with them. Endeavor is the second one, Life is the first one, and there will be a third one as well. And then obviously I see that as my publishing home. Like I have a vested interest in the company, so of course that's where I hope to have a place to continue publishing.
Now, as a founding member, did people outside sort of a mistake that maybe you've gone exclusive or something, or was that ever a question that ever arrived?
I feel like people don't even know I'm involved in Distillery, which is really like, I'm like, I mean, even just the other day I had somebody recommend Distillery to me, and I was like, I do a thing on TikTok where I will like say like, here's what I'm reading and things like that. And somebody's like, oh man, have you seen Distillery? Their books are great. And I was like, I'm a founding member of this company. Yes, I've seen Distillery. I read everything like often before it comes out. Yes, thank you. But I think in part, like a weird thing kind of happened when the company got announced. A lot of the early announcements left off a group of the founding creators. So like, and they were like, oh, the editor of, it's not Chip and David, like, the editor of whatever this publication is, they only wanted to list these 3 names or something. And there's a whole group of us. I don't know that they have that problem, but So I don't know. I've had retailers as well that I've spoken to that are like, you're even years in that are like, you're a part of this, and I'm like, I'm doing 2 books with them. Yes, I'm a part. Like, what are we talking?
3 issues out already.
So it's like, I mean, I think it's then on the other side of that, it's like we can only blame the reporters on that so much, because then it's like, how have you not paid attention for the last few years to see my name all over these things? So I'm at the distillery booth. I'm posting about the books and other creators. I don't know. I don't know what else I can do to say I'm a part of it. My name's on the T-shirt. I feel like that's right. It counts for something, right?
Did you, when you had the offer and once you sort of figured out all the information, and found out what they were planning on doing, how did you see it was something that was going to help, advance your career or maintain your career, in the career management that we're talking about? What did you sit down and really contemplate things about this next step? And why did you say yes?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I went over pretty extensively with my agent and my attorney as we were getting into the stage of looking at a contract. I don't know why I said yes. It's just it seemed like a really good opportunity. It's a good group of people to be a part of, and I like the idea that there's kind of like a digital space that a lot of the creators, especially early on, were a part of. So doing something like the first thing I did was a short story with Joelle Jones, and it's like, well, that came about because Joelle is also a founding member, and we kind of get paired up on something like that, and that's a cool opportunity to tell a different kind of story or work with somebody new. And and the contract itself is pretty beneficial. It's really good for creators in terms of the intellectual property and how we distribute those things, how we deal with the media rights, and also the rates themselves. It's like, all right, well, this is, I said, like, this is my rate, and they met it. And I said the other things I need, because unlike other companies, Distillery works as like, we kind of run the project ourselves. So they might give us like the chunk of money you need, and then I am paying people. And okay. I work with Will on this. We've kind of, I think, over the last year, solidified a system for this, where between Will and I, we really have, like, I think, a pretty good system now. It's functioning now. We've got it. It's going. Don't disagree with me.
No, it's going great. It's smooth. It's really smooth.
Will, did you have any say in the list of creators that they first approached? Did you, as founding editor for Distillery?
Yeah, there was some back and forth, with stuff. They had a pretty strong list to begin with. And yeah, they would certainly kind of run stuff past me, or, what do you think about this? Or, ask people ask for a connection or whatever, if it was someone they didn't particularly know, but I did. But yeah, I wasn't really, yeah, there is a misconception that, like, one, I'm somehow exclusive to Distillery, which I'm not, or that I'm the editor-in-chief, which I am not, or that, it was really pretty much Chip and David, like you said. They did the same thing to me. I think Jock and I were in Chicago, and Chip, like, flew just to Chicago. He had some other meetings, and he was going to go to the show, and he took us out to dinner, and this very kind of like you said, it was like, you had to go to a grocery store to get an egg that had the address written on where we were supposed to meet and all that kind of stuff. And suddenly we're at dinner and thinking like, oh, we're going to have this dinner at some steak place or something. And then he whips out his laptop and starts like showing us this spread, the DAC or whatever. And we're like, what? He kind of ambushed us a little bit, So, but then by then it was like, you can see all of the sort of people together and who they're, the connections amongst the group, So then it just kind of naturally follows. A lot of the people just kind of naturally follow after that.
So is the deal for Distillery something that any creator should look for, should try to, I guess in maintaining a career and advancing a career, is the deal that's out there that, I don't know, we can't really talk specifics, but is it something that a creator would be beneficial for creators, the long term of maintaining a career and moving it forward?
I guess I don't know yet because it's still new, so I don't know what will really come of that. And I also don't know the deal that they offer to non-founding creators. I'm sure it's always different. So I don't know. I think Distillery has gotten a reputation for putting out good books, so I like that. I hear that from retailers, and also I ask when people come up to me at a convention and they bring a Distillery book for me to sign. I always ask, like, I ask them if they're reading other books, and it's a little different because, again, I have a vested interest. So it's like, if you're reading other Boom books, that's not really my business, but it's my business if you're reading Distillery books. So I want to know why they're picking it up, and what they're liking about it. And I'm generally hearing really positive feedback about the quality of the books being put out, and I like that. I like being a part of something that feels like there's a real elevation to the level of people working there. And again, it's just a really good group of creators. Like, I know them all, and I also really respect the work that they're doing. So for me, that's really cool to be a part of.
I mean, Will, do you think if anybody, especially now that there are no more founder spaces, that, I mean, with the deal that Distillery offers, that, and just how everything's assembled, that it would work for somebody's career? It would be a nice place, a home to be at a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see much downside to it. I mean, everybody's got different needs. I mean, the deal is different than like the Image deal where you retain all of the rights, but where there's some sharing of the intellectual property at Distillery. But it's but again, there's more of a support infrastructure. I mean, than there is it necessarily like at an Image where where you're really sort of left to your own devices kind of completely to deliver stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely a bonus. Plus, yeah, the format, the actual final our objects that you're creating, like if that's important to you, like I don't think anybody else is doing books that are put together more kind of with an eye towards like the actual physical object. Mm-hmm. I mean, just the quality of the books, the paper, the printing, everything is definitely, I don't think there's anyone else doing it at quite the same level. If that's important to you, then sure. Yeah, and I mean, I think it's just a trade-off. It's like, I think you have to diversify like anything else. If you can be doing some work for hire stuff and kind of getting a steady paycheck and maybe you're getting royalties, like I think you should have sort of stuff across like the industry. Maybe you're doing a book that you're doing it all yourself and funding it all yourself. And, you take it to an Image and then you can retain it all yourself also. But if you can find these in between spaces, like a Distillery, like a Boom, whatever, and, the deals they can be good, but they're also not, they're not perfect. No deal is perfect. So, I mean, I think that's the thing. I think Stephanie's an amazing, like she's done an incredible job of that, right? Where it's like, I've got 2 Marvel books, maybe 3 Marvel books, I've got a couple at Distillery. I've got a Boom that's like a steady earner. I'm doing little short stories here and there. Because I mean, like so you're talking about COVID. I mean, I think the lesson for me out of COVID was, and one of the reasons why, as much as I love Distillery and David and Chip, why I wasn't prepared to sign up as like a full-time employee was like, once you have all your eggs in one basket, like you really are at the whims of fate, right? And, I mean, it was just sort of like, all the people who were just counting on their work from Marvel or just counting on their work from DC, like that was a pretty rude awakening, right? So it's like, mm-hmm. If anything out of that, like you really have to figure out ways to, you have something in like a digital space, like a Comixology that would survive another thing like that, So, I mean, I think that's the thing. I think you have to, but then you have to just juggle. I think the mistake a lot of people make is that they, it's like anything else. It's like investing in the stock market. It's like if you're too weighted into certain sectors, like then you're too exposed to risk, Mm-hmm. So it's like if all your work is work for hire at Marvel, then that's probably not smart. I mean, even with Stephanie, it's like I know there's times where she's sort of like, Marvel's being great. Like, I'm sure the money's good. They take care of you. It's fun to be on a Marvel book, but it's like, do you want to add that 4th book? Probably not, right? Because that's another week out of your schedule that you can't be doing something that you own yourself, So it's like finding those balances. But, we've said this a million times in this podcast. It's like, it's a career, right? It's not a hobby. It's not just a pastime. And I mean, Stephanie does an amazing job of managing it as a career, particularly coming from a different career. And I mean, she's got a PhD, so she's obviously no dummy. But, I mean, a lot of people just don't think about it. I think they just go from thing to thing, and it's like whatever the next thing is, or they're just constantly scrambling, and they don't pull back far enough to sort of look at like, what is taking this job get me versus what does it lose me, that kind of arbitrage.
Well, I think comics we all start out as fans. It started out as a hobby, and then some of us decide, I can make these. And that's a whole different world. I mean, it's a whole different world of discipline. And actually, I think you have to fall out of love of the medium to work in the medium.
Oh, you do.
You can't be a fan anymore.
You do quickly fall out of love, believe me. You're looking at somebody.
I'm sorry, Will. I mean,
you're looking at someone's face.
There goes his hour for this week at the shrinks.
Yeah, it's just cheaper than paying for it. No.
But I mean, Stephanie, did you sort of lose it? I mean, like, oh wow, there's a grind here. It's not just sort of every Wednesday I get a jolt. And then, I'm excited to write a couple comic books, and I'm writing Phoenix, but, you have to, is there a change?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why. I mean, like, I was offered to write as part of one of my favorite video game properties. And it was one of those, one, it didn't really fit in the schedule, but two, as much as I love it, it's like, that's kind of why I don't want to do it. I don't want to have come into conflict with my love for the thing. I just want to be a fan of it. Like, I want to leave it alone. I want to be a fan of it. Like Will said, when we went to Adepticon, I really felt that. I was like, this is so much fun to just be a fan of Warhammer. I never want to write Warhammer. I don't want to, right. I don't want it to be my job. I just want to enjoy it. Though, I mean, if Henry Cavill comes asking for a writer on one of those TV shows, like, I will break my rule.
I'll be your Huckleberry, that's for sure.
Exactly. Oh, you want me to come write?
We've only got a couple of minutes left, but when does you have Life, and is issue 4 come out? If people are looking for your 2 distillery books, where are we with Life? And I know there's Endeavor that has yet to be published, but there's art out there. And
yeah. Well, all of the distillery books, or almost all the distillery books, are sadly in a bit of a circling the airport because of the Diamond restructuring,
Oh, geez. Okay.
So, like, Endeavor was meant to come out in February, I think it was, right? Yeah. But now that they've announced the PRH deal, for distribution, then it's just a question of figuring out, when all these books have just had like a pin put in them, right? Like the, Endeavor through Red Windows, Life. I believe Life 4 is out. It is, because it's the one that printed with like the weird page, like was printed backwards, like. Yeah. Just, but yeah, like we just sent in, 5 is done. We're working on number 6. So yeah, I think you'll probably be seeing more and more in the coming days and weeks, like announcements about when stuff is actually coming out again,
Oh, okay.
It'll be sooner than later, but it's not necessarily all set because, it's a whole different distribution system. They work further ahead. Like they need a lot more days, which kind of sucks from an editorial standpoint, but they need more lead time to get it into the system and stuff, than Diamond ever did or Lunar did. So, it's trying to figure all that out now that they've actually got like an agreement. I think that's what Chip and David have been a little like gone to ground like in recent weeks and months trying to sort this out. But so I'm sure you keep your eyes out for announcements about things sooner than later.
Stephanie, is there anything regarding what somebody, listening to this and who's just, going, okay, I have a lot of work ahead of me, to keep my, I sold a couple books, a couple pitches, and then I'm moving forward. So any final any advice?
Get an attorney.
Yes.
Don't put your name on anything an attorney hasn't read. I mean, it sounds, it's not meant to even be facetious. Like, I genuinely mean it. The amount of people in this industry signing things with no legal representation is wild. And then they get upset that they were like bamboozled by somebody, a corporation that has attorneys backing them. And it's like, well, of course you did. Like, I'm not an attorney. That's not what my degree is in. I'm going to find an expert. And like you said, it's a lot of work. It's a job. It's a career, and it is a lot of work. That's, you know, but it's doable. It is doable. You just also have to know when you need to go, like, talk to the attorney or advocate for yourself in certain ways. So yeah, treat it like a career, and like Will said, not a hobby. And I think that can change your perspective on how to manage it.
Now, whenever somebody says attorney, they think, oh, that might be expensive. But for comic books, is it sort of work like an entertainment? The attorney gets paid when you get paid?
Yes.
Or, okay.
I mean, I have two attorneys that do. So like, I have an entertainment attorney, and that is, he gets paid when I get paid, and takes a percentage. That's how my agent works as well. And then my contract attorney, I kind of just go to her with comic contracts, and I do pay her something to read the contract. But for me, that's worth it, because in the long run, the way that I've been able to negotiate my media rights and how that has paid off for me is incredibly important. So yes, I am paying her something to read a contract, but the flip side of that is I'm earning myself more money on the back end. I'm taking care of my media rights, my intellectual property, and I'm ensuring that, you know, when my agent does his amazing job, because he's great and options this, I'm taken care of by these people.
Mm-hmm.
And also because of the money, when does the bill from the attorney, you know, the hourly, does that come in after you probably get a check? I mean, because sometimes, you know, people are just doing this and they don't have any money, you know, they're hoping this will have. So, I mean, I don't want people to, because your advice is great and everybody should follow it, not to find roadblocks not to follow it. Is it the money comes in later to pay the hour, you know, the contract attorney, or?
Yeah, it has. I mean, I've also worked with attorneys that work the way that like, this happens to be the attorney I'm working with currently, but like my entertainment attorney, a lot of attorneys do work that way as well, where they get paid when you get paid. So, so like my entertainment attorney, I'm not paying him until the negotiation has happened, the project has been optioned, and now he's getting a cut of what I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of attorneys that will work that way as well. My current contract attorney, again, because I have multiple, it's just worked out with, you know, this is the deal that I have going on, where, you know, I pay her for usually reviewing a couple hours worth of contracts with me, and she's, you know, she worked with me on the distillery stuff. So it was also fun. I like her a lot. So, you know, when some of my first distillery stuff came out, I'm like shipping the attorney, like, oh, this is from the deal you helped. So, you know, having a good relationship with essentially what I consider my team. Like, these are the people that are helping back me and helping make up, I guess, seeing myself as kind of like my own little company. These are the people that you need to have. And this is what I needed to do to build the career.
Right. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you might have to spend that money for the one-time person to look over your first one, you know, and it can be expensive. It can be $500, $600, $1,000. You know, it could be a lot of money for an hour or two of an attorney's time. But the other good news I would say to people is that, generally speaking, most of these contracts are like boilerplates of each other, you know. Like, I know for a fact that, like, the Boom contract is, like, I could probably write it from memory because it's like the same contract that was a Vertigo that Paul Levitz ported over to Boom kind of thing, you know? So it's like, once you've done the first one, like, the other ones become, you know, they're just basically like shades of gray. There's not typically a ton of room to negotiate. Like, there are certain aspects that you can negotiate, but so, you know, you may have to like suck it up the first time, but then subsequently it should actually get easier, like, as you do more of them, you know, and that kind of thing. So it's just something to think about. But yeah, but maybe you don't fly to San Diego and keep that powder dry for a contract from somebody. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, hey guys, thank you very much for coming back on, and I will assemble this very long podcast with all this great information.
You're like the Joe Rogan of comic book podcasts,
God.
Francis. Just put it out raw. Just stick the whole thing out. 4 hours of
I think you
whatever.
should amp up Bill and I talking about BarCon and like put some dramatic music over it.
Yeah, I feel like there's an opportunity for a thumbnail, sort of clickbait thumbnail there.
Yeah, like us.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like big things. Go look at like what the WWE does, like on their YouTube channel and stuff. It's that kind of a thing.
I can do clips. Exactly. I can do clips. So I think I could probably pull something off where everything. Portrait of an Editor, when it all fell apart, and Will and Stephanie started arguing with each other. So
which is great because I don't
get covered.
Weird consent. Like I've been getting a lot of comments lately on TikTok, like editor bashing, and I'm like, from random fans that don't work in the industry are just like, until the editor comes in and ruins everything. And I'm like, and meanwhile I'm at Adepticon with my editor running around with her little warhammer. I'm like,
yeah, where was the BarCon at Adepticon? We totally got left out of that deal.
Yeah,
I know it. I'm bummed out. I wonder if there was, but no, I mean, listen, all joking aside, I know that there is problematic things that have gone on there. I certainly don't want to come off as if like, it's any real route to whatever. I just think, you just have to sort of be aware of all this kind of stuff, and it's
been beneficial for me. I think I'm also coming at it from the perspective of like when I was a brand new young woman in my 20s walking into a bar in an industry that is really still male dominated. I just want that to be on a radar for people, because I mean,
100%.
It can be a powder keg. It can be, there. And if you're the person that walks in and you have something that you really want, like, that there are in every industry and all over the world, there are people with bad intentions. So it's just something to keep in mind. But, I'm lucky that I know the best people in comics. Don't tell Will I said that.
Okay, I'll cut that part out.
Present company excluded. Right, that's gonna cut down on the.
That's
clip.
Not gonna make it.
Right.
Got to cut it for time.
Right, right, exactly.
Well, guys, thank you very much. I'll be talking to you.